Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode 108. Now, we just went past show 104, and I was an absolute Norbert and didn't even notice until one of the guests that I had on my show a couple of weeks ago when we were chatting, they were like, "Oh my god, you've been doing your podcast 2 years." And I was like, "OMG, we've been doing the podcast like 2 years," and we didn't even notice. So really, we should input a little bit of... Yes, thank you. Wow, yeah, I hadn't even noticed. I just kind of do it.
Well, hello, Benny.
Oh, hello. Yeah, my co-host, she's there. Oh, it's you again.
I am. Yeah, I'm waiting for you to introduce me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that woman on the other end, Rachel Guy, she's here. Hi, Rachel.
Well, I'm trying to do the whole. I'm not going to speak until you introduce me because otherwise I talk over you.
No, you just ad-libbed because this is such an incredible comedy show, as well. We're just so hilariously funny. You just gotta roll with it. You gotta roll with the punches, Rach.
Well, actually, speaking of which, I was thinking about you earlier again when I was in my car because remember a couple of weeks ago? Oh God, it was probably a couple of months ago now. We played the Top Gun theme tune.
Yes.
Well, I was in my car today and I had another cracking tune come on. And for some reason I was singing along and it reminded me of you. And that song is King of Wishful Thinking by Go West. And it's such a brilliant tune. And I was thinking perhaps the theme of today's podcast could be King of Wishful Thinking. Do you know which one it is?
No, I have no idea what you're on about.
Wait, I'll play it. I'll play it.
My music trivia is obviously absolutely awful.
It's brilliant.
Like everyone, I either know really old classics or the kind of genres of music that I listen to.
Wait, I'll play it. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Oh.
I don't know if I should be...
Oh, I don't know what's happening to Spotify. It's getting a bit excited today.
I don't know if I should be offended or not. That sounds like old school cheese.
Well, it is. It's amazing. It's like 80s. And I've just realised it's from Pretty Woman. Maybe that's why I like it.
Well, you look good in the skirt.
Anyway, that's even if it's not the theme of today, it's my tune of the week, the King of Wishful Thinking. There you go. And awesome. I bet there will be listeners to this podcast who go, "Fuck yeah, that's such a good song," and they're going to go find it on Spotify. If anyone, by the way, wants to follow me on Spotify, I am there, and I have some cracking playlists full of 80s tunes. I do have some gym playlists as well. I've got some good driving tunes, which is a bit more like trancey and housey things. But if you're on Spotify, hit me up on Twitter because I always like to follow people because I don't know about you, Ben, but I always think that somebody else's playlist is always better than your own.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So if anyone's on Spotify and who's got like some banging playlists for, the gym, driving, just chilling out, hit me up and I'll follow you.
I didn't know you could do that, so I can just follow you and listen to your cheesy 80s playlists.
Yeah, baby. It's like, I don't know, what's it, $10 a month? Like maybe it's like $11 a month. And it's like, you know what Spotify is?
No, I do know what it is. I just
okay.
Don't invest enough time to look at it, and I just put my album on at the gym, get my workout done, and leave. Like,
yeah, but don't you get bored of that? One album.
I haven't got one album. I've got more than one album. Norbert. I've got plenty of music to listen to. I'll download a new album here or there, but I don't know. I don't drive. I bet. Like if I drove a lot, I bet I'd play around with it in the car and learn how to use it a bit and do it that way. But because I just work from home and it's just me, and if I'm working, I play music. I usually play classical music.
So do I. Well, here we go. On Spotify, there's a playlist for studying. So apparently, it makes you more intelligent.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I could
so
do
there
with
we
that.
go.
I could do with that. Anyway, seeing as you're in Australia. And I'm actually, if people are watching on YouTube, they can see I'm wearing a TDT hoodie, which is just by chance. because I work from home, and if anyone came around my house, I think I'd probably live like a bit of a tramp in the fact that I get up, I'll put whatever clothes is lying there on, and I'll go downstairs and work. Like, there's no dress code. But you're in Australia, and just for the Australian listeners of the show, TDT is now for sale in Australia. So if you go to transdermaltechnology.co, that's .co, then you'll find it there, and you can get delivered to yourself. And also the guy that's running it out there, Luke Hickey, he can set you up with trade or affiliate accounts. So yeah, right, we've got an action-packed show.
I'm a big fan of DTT. I'm just gonna add that in here. Like, it's definitely worth the investment. It's very well priced. I think it's, now that it's available in Australia, it is awesome. You should definitely give it a go. For those guys who haven't already tried it.
And people keep asking me, when's it coming to America? When's it coming to this country? When's it coming to that country? Look, we're trying. These things take time. They take effort. They take loads of money. You know, we'll get there in the end, but we have to do things as we can, when we can. So it will happen one day, and I'll probably announce it here, social media, etc.
Awesome.
Cool.
Any other news?
No, don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I'm off to,
when this show goes up, so the 23rd of October, a couple of days later, I'm taking my first trip to Marbella to go
it's Marbella, babe. Marbella. It's a silent L.
Well, they don't tell you that, so how would I know? All right, Marbella. I'm going to Marbella to check out the location, because Body Type Nutrition might be running health and fitness retreats abroad. So I'm going out there on location and to have a couple of days off because I need it. So I'm looking forward to that. The location that we've got looks absolutely incredible. Purpose-built facility. So I'm excited to do that. So I might drop in to that fairly famous gym that all the fit pros seem to be jumping to in Marbella and grab myself a workout.
You should definitely do that. I have to say, I do rate UP as probably it's certainly one of the top facilities that I've trained in the Northern Hemisphere. So you definitely have to go and visit. It is a fantastic gym. But I have to ask you, Benny, do you have a new passport now since you lost it in Australia in February?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking.
I've got it. Don't worry.
Oh God, Mother Hen came out that day.
Yeah, that was hard work getting that passport back. Jesus, or getting another one. They thought I was a flipping terrorist. Anyway, let's do the show.
Let's crack on with the show. Okay, right. Well, we've got a bit of a controversial question here for the first one. This is from Steve Ward. So, Steve says, "Hi, Ben and Rachel. I would first like to thank you for the awesome podcast and the free information that you give. This really is a true inspiration and a life changer." Okay, so here goes my question. What is your take on steroids in the industry? So many people are taking the stuff that it makes the industry a bit of a farce, as there are top coaches out there who are on it and promote clean living just by doing workouts and eating the right macros, when really a big factor is the steroids. What baffles me is that they are top coaches and they are in the limelight and write statuses and blogs about this, yet they're on it. Even a lot of federations for physique are on the stuff. Do you think this dooms the industry and people's perspective of what is achievable? Now, don't get me wrong, they still work hard, but let's be honest, it packs more of a punch than doing it clean. Do you agree that this could be a problem and why people fail and give up so quickly? It really annoys me because you just see straight through these people, but the sad thing is they are making a lot of false money by giving out false information and by how they got there, following these principles. Sorry to go on, but I'd really like your take on it all. Cheers, Steve.
Wow. So we're going to do a steroid-specific podcast in the future. I'm just confirming the guest at the moment because I want to get the right guest. But, you know, there's a lot of loaded questions and topics and tangents that you could go off on with this question, and we're going to try and stay on track. You know, one of Steve's points was, do you think it, you know, kind of demotivates people? Do they hit a plateau and go, I kind of can't get there? Yes and no. I think a lot of people don't apply the right fitness and training information and don't work bloody hard enough to really get to where they want to be. Like, you know, if I take my shirt off, I'm proud of what I've got. You know, it's not the most incredible physique in the world, but it's good. I've got, you know, what I want. And I think one of the big problems is people give up is, you know, the physiques that we do aspire to, and Steve is right a lot of the time, are quite often steroid enhanced physiques. You know, we'll see them in the magazines and they're completely shredded and they're so full and vascular that, you know, there's a huge amount of people that won't be able to achieve that physique. And, you know, I myself, if you compared to me to someone that was a bit more, you know, genetically gifted, had a different muscle structure, then, you know, I'm not going to be able to achieve the same thing as they are. But I think when we follow all these images and we follow all this information, you will think that that is what the end goal is. And I think I've definitely been on a journey myself, and I recently posted my blog that used to be titled my 8-year journey, so my 8 years as a coach, which is now essentially 10 years I've been in the industry, 10 years in terms of I've been trying to transform my own body around 10 years, so from the day that I first started to lose weight. And the last 2 years I talked about how I transitioned from my goals being less serious in terms of like body composition. So I wasn't overly concerned about having a six-pack all year and all that kind of stuff, because I'd learned that I really wanted balance in my life, that actually the other things that were really important to me I needed to kind of pay attention to. So, you know, I wanted to go out drinking now and again. I wanted to, you know, be very flexible when I went out. You know, I wasn't too bothered about holding a bit more body fat. You know, I wasn't bothered about having a certain weight on the scales in terms of my muscle mass, and that was a really important step for me. And we're going to create a body dysmorphia show in the future as well, which has been spurred by a guy that I actually had briefly on a podcast in the past called Dan Ralph, and he had surgery after having excess tissue on his chest, so gynecomastia, and he sort of wrote in and said, you know, I spoke to him on the phone and got him on the podcast, and, you know, just got him to share his opinion. And he's written in again and said, you know, I think I've got a bit of body dysmorphia. You know, this perception of where I want to be has developed even further, and I don't really know how to get out of the rut of where I see my physique should be. But if you look at him now, he looks fantastic. Like, the guy looks like a fitness model, looks brilliant. So, you know, constantly following these images is going to create a false perception of what is achievable, because a lot of these people are on steroids. It's totally true. And I mean, me personally, I find it's fairly easy to see a physique that has been on steroids. It tends to be, you know, thicker, more vascular. The joints tend to appear thicker. Muscle mass can be really even, really round, really swollen. So I find it's quite easy. And he mentioned like the federation. So I've had clients that I've prepped for shows years ago, and obviously been to the shows and seen the standard of the physiques that are on stage, and the standard just keeps going up and up and up and up and up all year. Now, granted, we know a bit more about training, we know a bit more about nutrition, but not enough to stimulate for me that kind of result output. So the physiques are definitely, you know, what was bikini and is now fitness, that kind of bridge is now become more serious. The girls are now bigger, they're now leaner, they're now more ripped. You know, the classes are changing, and it's very evident. You know, I've had a guy that prepped for a show, and he based his prep and his image on past, what he saw in terms of past results. And, you know, that next year, the standard was just way higher, you know, whether there was something else being used, you know, whatever. So, you know, I think it's a really valid point, and people do need to be aware of it, and based what is achievable on, I suppose, an honest, natural approach to training and nutrition, which is, you know, what I do myself and what obviously, hopefully, other people are aspiring to based on the information that I give people.
I would second everything that you just said. I think there's some very valid points there. The first one being is that you can get a phenomenal physique without using the gear. You can. Look, you know, on the flip side of that, there are, you know, if you are a bodybuilder and you are, you know, aiming to be a professional bodybuilder, it is, it will be a need of your career, so to speak, to take steroids. It's, and that's how it is. And there'll be, if it's something that, that you want to do, then that's fine. But just realize that, I've got a couple of guys who I train at the moment who are on a gear. I'll fully admit that. I certainly don't put them on it, but they've come to me, and they're long-term trainees. They've got an old training age, and basically they've come to me for either rehabby type stuff or physique development. So I have got a fair bit of experience there. But in terms of what is achievable with in a natural physique, like I said, you can get a phenomenal physique without steroids. Like you said, Ben, people just do not work hard enough, and they're just not committed and consistent enough with their nutrition and actually with their training as well. And the most valuable point that has come out of this is body dysmorphia. I think that it is absolutely rife in the industry, and I know so many top fitness girls and fitness guys who, their weight will fluctuate 10 to 15 kilos in the off season. Now, I certainly know in my development as a coach, my physique has become less of an importance to me. Like, obviously it's important to be fit and healthy, but like you, Ben, I don't want to be shredded year round. In fact, I'm never shredded anymore. I like to have a slightly softer but tight body year round, and I don't like big weight fluctuations. And it's just it's one of those things. I think we all have to strive for a little bit more balance, and unless it's really unless it's your career and you have to prep for a photo shoot, or you are doing shows and you are competing. And if I'm honest now, because people have said to me recently, actually, oh, Rachel, why don't you get on stage again? You should do bikini again. And that's fine if people want to do that, and I do prep some girls to stage. But my honest opinion is there is no fucking way that I would get on stage to have some judge tell me that I'm not good enough and not lean enough, and my glutes aren't big enough, my abs aren't tight enough. I just personally right now I can't think of anything worse, and my competition days are well and truly over. So and it's basically about what you want and either your involvement into that side of things or your involvement out of it. So, I know a lot of coaches who've been there and have done that, and they've been competitors in the past, and they've been very, very lean in the past. And it's sort of, you go through that phase and then you do come out of it. So I don't necessarily, I think there's two sides to everything. And, I think that, I think it's very clear when somebody has taken anabolics, and I think that it's just, I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to digress anymore.
and I can tell, and this is something else I suppose I need to get off my chest, because it happened when I posted that 8-year blog. And when I posted that 8-year blog, that blog hit over 1 million people on Facebook. Wow. It was incredible. I just posted it up to kind of just put some content out there, for something good for people to read. I came back a day later and it hit 400,000 people, and 2 days later it hit 1 million people. It'd been picked up by the Irish newspapers. It's really cool. But I was looking through some of the comments on the thread, and people were like, "Oh, you skipped leg day. You haven't got big calves, like all this kind of stuff." And it just shows you how so many people see the perfection and the ideal as the bodybuilder, like as this symmetrical kind of, and I will tell you right now, I haven't trained my calves in over 2 years. I gave up on them long ago. I look at them and go, that is what I've got. And now I could not give a flying fuck. It really doesn't matter, because that is what I've got. That is my genetics. I've accepted that. Cool. I've also accepted various other things about my body, because if I don't, those thoughts just are going to plague me in the future of what I see as the physique that I'm trying to obtain. And also, this is the key thing. I am not a bodybuilder. And that is the most important thing. Do not compare me to a bodybuilder when I'm not a fucking bodybuilder. So I play rugby. I train in the gym twice a week. That's twice a week. There's other, a lot of other people listening to this podcast will train 5, 6, 7 times a week in the gym. I train to be strong. I train to obviously try and improve or at least maintain my physique when I can in the in-season. So, comparing me to a bodybuilder and saying you haven't got carbs, you haven't like this, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't care. And they shouldn't care either, but it's the way that our industry has developed. Like, the information that we've got over the years has come from bodybuilding largely. We followed Arnie and that disseminated down and bodybuilding became big, and, that's how information started to come to the masses in the fitness world, and the bodybuilding physique was our first exposure of it. So, we need to get away from that. We need to stop comparing people to bodybuilders if you're not actively a bodybuilder. If I was on this podcast saying, I am a bodybuilder, I'm going to compete, then compare me. Compare me to the other people, compare me to the pros, because that's who I'm comparing myself to. Otherwise, compare me to what I am, and that's a guy that likes to lift, likes to train, likes to be healthy, play sport, and wants to live his life to the full. And I think the other thing that we've not really picked on, and this could be a key point of Steve's question, is that one of his big things is that there's a lot of steroid enhanced coaches online that say they're natural. Now that's really unfair, and that's not on, and these people should be honest. I know that there is people right now going to be listening to this podcast that are on steroids, say they're natural online, and there's people believing that that is achievable. Now that is the problem. That is the root cause of the problem. And I could name names. I could do that. But this is for them, and they need to understand that. If you have a niche within the industry, for me, I'm trying to promote health, well-being, performance from the inside out. If I started to take steroids, I need to change my niche, I need to change my message, and I need to start to talk to those kind of users, or people need to come on me with that journey. I can't preach to the same people, preach the same information when I am taking something else and disfiguring essentially my message. So, I've been onto the website recently of a trainer which I know is taking steroids, and there's pictures of him on the front, flexing, and it looks all muscular, and and there's normal everyday people going onto that website looking for the services of that individual, and then going, oh God, he looks fantastic, but they're never going to get that unless that coach takes them on a journey where they end up taking steroids as well. And I think that is the problem. And if you're a coach listening to this and you're in that situation, you've instantly lost my respect, because you can't be honest to what you're trying to do and what the people that follow you are trying to achieve.
It's I'm looking forward to the whole podcast that's done on anabolics and whoever you get in, because like I said, it is rife in the fitness industry. Just to add in here, I think let's talk about males and females here. You've got males taking anabolics. That's one thing. Females taking anabolics, particularly bikini girls. Wow, that is a whole different kettle of fish. Now, look, if you're doing physique or something like that, that's your choice as a female, and you can get a fantastic physique, and obviously figure can be very natural as well. Particularly over the years of training, you'll see a lot of the top figure girls are slightly older, so they tend to be very late 20s to early, even mid 30s, the top figure girls, because that's what it takes to develop that harder, more dense muscle as a female. But as a bikini girl, there is, if you can't prep a bikini girl naturally, you're doing something wrong. Like, if you can't get a bikini girl lean enough and to have enough muscle on her, she's either had not enough training behind her and not enough years under the bar. But, I've heard all sorts of stories about bikini girls taking all sorts of performance-enhancing drugs for a bikini show, which is frankly just ridiculous. That's bad coaching. Very, very poor coaching.
I think we'll close this. I'm not against steroids in any way. You do it for your own purposes, for your own means, for your own goals. But be honest about it. Be open about it. Do it. Make sure you're doing it for the right goals. Don't do it blindly. Get educated on it. And that's when I do the steroid-specific podcast. that'll be what we'll do. We'll talk honestly and open about it. We'll talk about the types of steroids, why you might take them, what the side effects are going to be, and it will be a totally neutral podcast. We don't have an agenda. I don't have an agenda to tell you to take them or to not. But my agenda is with the people that are in the fitness industry taking them when they're saying they're not, sort your shit out, basically.
It's very obvious.
Right.
Yeah, like, you know, if you're gonna take it, you've got to get the right advice. You know, it's yeah. Alrighty, let's move on. Moving swiftly on. This question is from Ben.
Legend.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for all the podcasts so far. They are genuinely superb and they've helped me get through a lot of long car journeys and train journeys whilst driving around the country. My question. I'm a typical mesomorph, 6'1", roughly 97 kilos. I've been car backloading for nearly 10 months now and I've reached a bit of a plateau. I play rugby to a reasonably high level, so as you'd expect, I train twice a week with 3 to 4 weight sessions a week, accumulating with a game every Saturday. All of my weekday training is in the evening, although I occasionally throw in the odd morning HIIT session. My caloric intake is roughly 3,000 calories with a macronutrient split of roughly 40% protein, 40% fat and 20% carbs. My body operates reasonably well on carbohydrates and I take in around 150 grams per day. I'm looking for a bit of advice on how to fine-tune my nutrition so that I can rid myself of the last little bit of stubborn body fat on my torso. Should I turn to intermittent fasting, carb cycling, or calorie reduction, or perhaps just increase my training and reduce my carbs? If you were to give me a few key points on how to nail this down so that I can finally see a couple of abs, what would they be? Thanks a lot, Ben.
Good question, and I want to take this in a couple of tangents. Like the first thing, and if I've aided perpetuating this message in the past, then I apologise. Like, there is no magic, no super magic in carb cycling, carb backloading, intermittent fasting, all these different techniques. The reason why I talk and promote these techniques, and I kind of, I definitely detail them in the seminars that I deliver, is that there's an application and a place for these kind of techniques to fit the right person, to fit the right body type, to fit the right training, lifestyle regime. So don't think that switching from one to the other will necessarily have a real significant, change in your physique. Now, it might do if it fits the problem or the situation better. Now, of course, that's going to kind of stimulate some change. So that's the first thing. Like, there's no real message. Calories and macronutrients are going to be important in fine-tuning a physique and matching them to your kind of needs. Now, this guy's 6'1", 97 kilos, so that's around 15 kilos heavier than me. Now, for maintenance, and I do like not a lot of movement during the day. I sit on my ass most of the day. For maintenance, I need to eat around 3,100, 3,200 calories. So this guy's eating under my calories, training more than me, and wants to lose more body fat. Now, I would not recommend losing body fat in season. Anything you need to do as a sportsman, for me, you need to sort your stuff out of season so you don't affect performance. Now, I've been working and do here and there with top flight clubs, and it's really nice to see in top flight clubs that the thing that they're getting away from, and 5-6 years ago this was a real focal point of rugby teams. They were kind of saying, well, with all this knowledge, all our players should now be walking around looking like ripped, shredded athletes, as well as maintaining top performance and being healthy. And speaking to clubs, the recent trend is they've knocked all of that on the head, because play adherence wasn't really happening, and also there isn't actually a need. You don't need to be super shredded, look like a bodybuilder, whatever, all year round. What you need is to be brutally strong, brutally powerful, fast, agile, and dense and heavy, and be skillful. So it doesn't matter if you're 6%, 8%, 12%, 14% body fat. Obviously, if it gets too high, then the coaching team's going to go, that's a little bit unhealthy, it's slowing you down, etc. But most rugby players, I would say, would probably happily function between 10, 14, 16% body fat and perform really well. I don't notice any performance, if my body fat's a bit higher. If anything, I feel a bit colder on the pitch. So I think your calories need to go way up. Like, you're in the gym a lot. You're sometimes doing HIIT sessions in the morning. I think you need to eat more carbs. You're only eating 20% carbs from your diet. I think you need more. The last thing I would want you to do is reduce calories, down carbs, and up training. I think you should forget wanting to look at the last two little bits of abs on your torso. I think it's also going to be very hard for you to accurately, and we did a podcast about this previously, accurately assess your calorie need when you're playing sport. You know, how do you assess accurately how many calories you burn in a rugby game? It's hard, you know, because you've got to base it on intensity, also the amount you get hit. If you get smashed up in a game, the next day your metabolic rate will go up because there's so much repair happening. And in fact, Richard Senewald's doing a talk on this at the Body Type Nutrition Conference on the 8th and 9th of November, and he's found some really good data about how your caloric needs change when you're injured or you're burnt or you sprain something. There's actually some really good data that are not a lot of people know about. So, dude, eat more. I'd probably train a little bit less. You know, I really struggle to keep up 3 weight sessions a week on top of rugby when it gets a bit tough in season. So I'd lose the perception that you want to lose more fat, eat more, watch my video on YouTube, how to increase your calorie ceiling, follow that, eat more, perform better, and become an animal.
I think this is very common, isn't it? You know, when everyone tries to lose that little, you know, you're already obviously relatively lean, you know, 6'1", 97 kilos. That's a decent physique. Particularly if you're training that much and playing rugby as well. And yeah, 3,000 calories is not very much for a big guy at all. So, you know, when I see 150 grams of carbs a day, you know, that's what a lot of my girls are eating at a low level. Of course, you know, I carb cycle with my girls a lot of the time, but 150 grams is hardly anything. You've answered everything else. I have nothing further to add, Your Honour.
Right, question 3 then. Rolling with the punches.
We're hammering through these. Yeah. Okay. This question is from. I love this question. This question is from Oliver. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to the likes of Phil Learning. Oh, sorry. Let me start again. I've skipped ahead of myself. I just wanted to say a massive thank you. You, amongst the likes of Phil Learney, Mark Coles, and Phil Graham, to name a few, have been an inspiration and a fantastic source of knowledge for me over the last 6 months. In March, after a month's holiday in Florida and devouring my body weight in food most days, I came back wanting to change everything about my physique. Standing at a paltry 5'2" for a bloke, I may as well be a dwarf, and an overwhelming 20+% body fat, I knew I had to make drastic change. I started by researching nutrition, which is how I came across yourself, and spent a full week listening to your back catalogue of podcasts. Invaluable. I also started to read various texts for my own development and to expand my own knowledge further, some recommended by yourself and guests that you've also had on the show. As it currently stands, I weigh in at 55 kilos and 10% body fat. My next phase is about adding lean muscle, and I'm hoping to be 60 kilos by Christmas. I feel much better than I have ever done, and importantly, I sleep better, which used to be a huge problem for me as I suffered from sleep apnea. Because of the profound way in which my life has changed, it prompted me to look into the change of careers. I've actually worked in the tech industry for 6 years. I recently enrolled in the BTN Foundation Academy, and I'm loving it. I will certainly be joining the full academy once I've finished. Although it has to be said that Rich sounds like the narrator of a 70s porn film. Everything sounds smooth and sexy coming from that guy. Really? I've never heard Rich speak. Perhaps I should have a listen to him. Anyway, I digress once again. I've also been accepted onto a degree course to study sports science and nutrition. Guys like yourself and Leigh Norton are my points of inspiration. I want to facilitate the learning of others and educate the general public on living a better and a healthier life. So my question, for someone starting out a little later in life, I'm 26 years old, so I'll be almost 30 by the time I have my degree. Is there anything that you would recommend to get the business to get a business off the ground. Ideally, I'd love to get some momentum and experience while studying. Would you recommend this? Is there anything that you would have done differently when you first started? Many thanks, Oliver.
Well, firstly, Oliver, good story. Well done for changing it around and, sorting things out for yourself. It sounds, fantastic. For someone starting out a little later in life at 26, like, dude, that's still like so young, and there's never a bad age to do anything. It really doesn't matter. And this is, I suppose, another problem if we're looking at, what we've previously talked about in the podcast is people comparing themselves to other people and what they've done and when they've started things and when they've achieved things. And, it really doesn't matter. What matters in life is that you do things when you're ready, you achieve what you want to achieve, you smash your goals, and you smash your goals for your own personal reasons, not because of anyone else, not because of any external influence. So I think 26 is actually still young. I went to uni as what is considered a mature student. I went when I was like 21, 22, which was actually perfect because I got out of uni everything that I needed to. I didn't get the best education. I think uni, unless you go to a really, really top uni, and I didn't go to a top sport in uni, I don't think that there's a lot of the degree courses that aren't great. Saying that, I know for a fact that my degree course is very good now, and that's purely because the influences of one or two people that I'm still in touch with, and they've done a great job. Remember, every degree course is as good as the lecturers that teach it. You can get an incredible lecturer at a bad uni, and you will learn a lot, and it will facilitate your journey as a coach. So, 26 is young, dude. But if you're at university and you're being supported by the government and you've got time on your hands, for me, and this is what I did, it's a perfect time to start a business. It's a perfect time to research business. It's a perfect time to do the mistakes, to screw things up. I wouldn't really do anything differently because I wouldn't know all the things that I know now. I wouldn't have developed in the way that I've done, which has made me, as knowledgeable as I am, as experienced as I am, and you can't buy that shortcut a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong. And this is interesting. Like when I posted my 8-year journey blog and it got all that interest, there was comments from people saying, "Oh, you can achieve what you've achieved in a lot less space of time." 100%. The stuff that I achieved, you could probably do in half the time, maybe a bit less. But I went through it on my own. I went through it on my own agenda, doing my own research, doing my own training, doing my own nutrition. If I'd have hired a coach, would I have got there quicker? Would I have built muscle quicker? Would I have learned things quicker? Yeah, probably. A coach can shortcut, an awful lot of things, but it will only get you so far. And especially in business, you've got to learn some of your own mistakes. Your market will always be your market. Your business will always be your business, and you'll understand it. There's no real nugget of information here for Oliver. It's a case that please don't think that you're ever too old to do anything. I was at a seminar at the weekend, and at the beginning of the seminar, I was talking to this guy, and he was like, I'm a bit old now. I think he was like early 40s, and he was like, everything's a bit tougher for me now. And don't get me wrong, when you get older, things get a little bit harder. You've got more on your plate, you've got more stress, your body doesn't work quite as well. But that excuse will only get you so far. And he realised by the end of the seminar, he came up to me and he goes, "Do you know what, my age might slow me down a little bit, but it's not an excuse." And he was right. It's not an excuse. He can still achieve an awful lot of really good things, especially, on a personal level and a kind of physique and body composition level. You look at the mature classes of bodybuilding. They're still achieving incredible things. There's athletes that are still playing well into old age. They might not be at the top of their game, but they're still achieving incredible things. So age is no barrier.
I would second that, and I think age is actually an advantage. I'm 31 now. Like I feel like I still act like I'm 16, and I look a little bit younger than 31, but I'd like to think. But I definitely think over the past sort of 2 to 3 years, certainly when I hit 29, I think you certainly develop slightly different traits that you do, towards your late 20s, and you start to mature a bit more. You really stop caring what people think. and so therefore you stop trying to please everybody, and as soon as you stop trying to please everybody, the magic happens. So there are massive perks to going to university later, and I think all of it, like, what an amazing story. And it's, look, I've just come back from Vegas, and I'll tell you now, it's really easy to eat your body weight daily when you're in the US. So awesome story. I'd have the same advice. You just got to basically pick what you enjoy doing, and start small. Start small.
Awesome.
But keep working. Awesome. Next question. Right, these are actually 3 questions, so they're all from Max. So we'll answer them all after one another. So I'll ask a question and you can answer it. Okay, boss?
Okay.
Okay, so hi Ben and Rachel. Quick questions. I know that coffee has antioxidants in it, but does decaf? I've heard that the process to remove the caffeine may be harmful. So does it still have antioxidants in it? And do these outweigh any negative aspects from it may have from being decaffeinated?
So it depends on the processing, but the processing that I would recommend for decaf coffee is Swiss water filtered. There are other processing means, like you can use carbon dioxide, you can use chemicals that are very powerful, but Swiss water filtration is basically they soak the bean, and then the caffeine sort of comes out, and it sort of forms this scummy foam on top, and then they just literally scrape the foam off, which is most part of the caffeine, and then they'll wash and soak it again, and that's obviously a very non-invasive to the bean form of decaffeination. So that's the way that I'll recommend. It's also the way to retain most of the flavour, because a lot of the early criticism of decaffeinated coffee was that it didn't lack the same amount of flavour, and you're correct, it can often not have as much as of a punch. So me personally, I just use a few more grounds per serving that I use to intensify that flavour, and I'll always use Swiss water decaffeinated, and there's a lot of really good decafs around these days, but no, you're still going to get a good antioxidant punch, so don't worry about that, and we know how good the antioxidants in coffee are for the body.
Awesome. Done. Next question. This question is about blood flow restriction training. I've read that it can increase hypertrophy. Is this true, or is it a training fad? If it's true, what would be the best protocol to integrate into your training regime?
Yeah, there's some good data, and obviously a lot of bodybuilder, physique type people are obviously talking a lot about this. I got a lot of information about it when I was touring the UK with Lane. We obviously talked about it. We also did a bit, and I trained with him. So I think it's got really interesting application, and there's some good science behind it. But I think probably one of the main mechanisms to people like us to allow for extra growth is that it allows you to very easily add more volume to a training session without the extra stress on potentially nervous system, the joints, etc. Because you're using a load that's like 20 to 30% of your 1RM, so it's very, very light, and you're getting an absolute ton of reps in when you do it. So what's the best protocol? Well, a lot of the time I would just recommend that you add it to the end of your training sessions. I buy an awful lot of ebooks online to see what people are talking about, and different protocols and thought processes. I've bought all sorts of ebooks on training, nutrition, and I bought one on occlusion training just a little while ago. I think the URL is just occlusiontraining.co.uk, and you get you got an ebook with bands and the wraps, so you got everything, and then you got a free training program as well. And that I think the training program had like 6 months, 6 months of training programs in it, and that that obviously had some stuff where you could focus a lot on inclusion training, but what you don't want to do in your training is you don't want to take away from the normal things that work in training. You don't want to stop doing strength training. You don't want to stop lifting heavy stuff, because that's going to stimulate other areas of the body. Now, if you're injured, occlusion training is fantastic. I recently hurt my back, and one of the only things that I could do for my leg training about 2-3 weeks after I injured it was just some quad extensions with occlusion bands on, and I was just about able to do it. So for me, that was a method that I used to really just stop any atrophy of any muscle mass. I wasn't looking to gain any, I just wanted to stop any atrophy. And then now and again, because my training time in the gym is limited, I might do a little bit of like tricep occlusion training, for example, just at the end of the session, because again I can get a ton of volume in very quickly, and that's kind of how I'd use it. But I do think it's a valid training method to use again when the environment warrants it.
Occlusion training is bloody painful. Lane had me doing occlusion training on my hamstrings, a lying leg curl, and I was squealing. I was squealing like a little piglet.
Yeah, that's not good.
It was awful. I remember training in this really big bodybuilding gym here in Sydney, and I couldn't keep quiet on that one. It was very painful experience, but it was a good one. Get a really good pump, you do.
Oh yes, through the pump.
Yeah, that's right. I won't revert back to my Welsh accent because people took the piss out of me last week or the week before.
Oh, they did.
Anyway, I know. I have been practicing. I did talk to one of my best friends yesterday, and she is Welsh, so I was practicing on the phone to her. So maybe next time, I'll come out to my Welsh accent again. I can read proper questions again.
Do it.
See, I'm a bit better now. I'm a bit more fluent. Anyway. Okay, the next question. This is also by. This is the same. Another question by Max. Most days I have a constant bloat/fat around my stomach, but I'm now leaner elsewhere. I don't know my body fat, but I'm 5'11" and weigh 10 stone. I saw a doctor who diagnosed me with IBS. I'm yet to work out what triggers it, but there are some days where I'm fine, but the majority I'm bloated, and at worst I get stomach pain. I do feel better off gluten, and I've also been told that I don't have a gluten allergy. I've also looked into FODMAP, but it seems too restrictive to try at once. Is there anything I can do to reduce my bloating? I feel a little silly with my disproportionate pot belly. As always, love the show, and I would appreciate if these could get answered. But if not, I understand that you get a lot of questions. Max.
So this is the last time on the podcast we're going to answer anything IBS related, because we've talked about it a lot. I don't know how old this question is, but I put it in there because sometimes I feel we might as well bury topics. We might as well say, we've talked about the path to sorting out IBS, and we don't really have a lot more to add, and the listeners aren't going to benefit from hearing more information kind of on it. You've mentioned, what can I do? We've talked about the elimination diet. I think the elimination diet is very powerful. Yes, you've been tested for gluten, which means you're not a celiac, but it could mean that you've got a gluten sensitivity. You've already mentioned that you feel better off it. So the chances are you might need to come off it for a while, fix the gut environment, and then bring it back in. There might be other problems with other foods. And then, you've looked at the FODMAP and think it's restrictive. Well, sometimes you've got to go there. That's what it can take to fix something. I've been through periods of time where I've had to be on very restricted diets to try and find a solution to something. That's just what I needed to do. And there's not really another answer. You just got to suck it up and get it done. But you need to go down this path. If you're really scratching your head, then I would go to the Body Type Nutrition Lab and work with someone like Alex Manos, who's a genius in this kind of stuff, and get it fixed. But I think there's still a lot that you can do yourself. I think you need to do an elimination diet, then maybe go down the FODMAP route, then look at fixing the gut, and then move on from there. So, we've done a lot on the podcast before. Please don't send any more gut-related questions in because I've kind of tackled it. I'll bring up the gut again if there's some new research or we know something or there's a guest that I find that might be really valuable. But otherwise, we're done.
Yep. Just with this one, gluten's a big one. Just some elimination diet is the absolute number one thing. Bringing out dairy for a while, onions, garlic, all the the sulfur-based foods would be another a big lot to bring out. Cutting out your whey protein using either a rice or plant-based protein for a while, or just removing it in general. Like it's not an essential. But those would be certainly the top things. Obviously, obviously cutting out processed food from your diet. I mean, that's just a huge one, which some people just tend to forget that. So, we have covered IBS a lot. I do sympathise. I still struggle with my IBS. In fact, before we actually started recording, I was just telling Ben about how my guts were terrible last week. And it was all completely self-inflicted because I had several bottles of champagne between a couple of friends of mine at the races. So it was an all-day drinking session, and my guts were suffering big time. So it's all self-inflicted, and whether it's self-inflicted through alcohol or whether it's self-inflicted through food and obviously stress, you have to take responsibility for it, and that means basically doing things and going out of your way, which is it is inconvenient to do a FODMAP diet. It is inconvenient to do an elimination diet, but tough shit, that's what needs to be done. So yeah.
Last question.
That's all I have to add, Your Honour.
Last question.
Last question. Okay, this question is from Alex. Dear Ben, I have a few questions for your podcast. First of all, I've been thinking now for a while about the prices of fresh vegetables in supermarkets. Through listening to your podcast, I have been buying my fresh fruit and veg from a local greengrocer, and I like trying to help out small local businesses. Some of the veg I used to buy from a local supermarket looked of a high quality, but for a small price. In terms of nutritional value of food, are you getting your money's worth? Is the food cheap because it is cheap and not very high in the nutrients we need, or is it actually of a good quality? Totally different now. Why do my farts stink repulsively sometimes? I have a high protein, high fat diet. Thanks again for the great podcasts and free information. Love it, Alex.
Hey, we all get a few stinky farts now and again.
We don't. Mine smell like roses.
Yeah, piss off. All women say that. Yeah, whatever. The only time I get sort of bad flatulence is when I just have like a ton of calories and a ton of fibre. So quite often when I have like a really big roast dinner, remember fibre can be problematic for the gut to break down, especially when there's a lot of it. It's got to ferment. It ferments in the small colon. And that's how it creates energy, short chain fatty acids. So there is a process there that could create gas. But then obviously if you're eating something that you could be reactive to, that will give you gas as well. For example, there's a spice that I'm reactive to. If I eat that spice, it gives me awful wind. So could be just high calorie, high fibre. Could be that you're eating something that you're reactive to. And then the whole fruit and vegetable thing, it's kind of hard to give you a definitive answer, so I'm going to base my answer around kind of common sense and anecdotal, really. There's been research over past years comparing organic and non-organic food, and some research has shown that organic food is higher in nutrition, and some research hasn't. So it's kind of, people will quote organic research for their argument of organic fruit and vegetables, and some will quote the conventional research to push their agenda. So, and that's the thing with research, there's always going to be a lot of for and against, so you've got to be wary of that. What I would say is, I always buy fruit and veg from places that I trust and have used because I can taste the quality. Whether there's any data to support the fact that said person or said company is producing food of high nutritional quality, I don't know. But for example, where I live, there's a farm about half an hour away, and they come to a local farmer's market, and the fruit and veg is literally insane. It's got like twice the flavour of everything else that I buy. Like the tomatoes are they're like little sweets, like they're just so juicy and yummy. The lettuces are fresh and clean and just full of flavour. The potatoes are creamy and buttery, and if I get that from any supermarket, it just doesn't even compare. So I try and buy my fruit and vegetables from them because it's just a world of taste, and that's kind of what I go on. If you go to Asda or Lidl or Tesco's or wherever and buy their veg and go, it said it was good quality, but it just doesn't really taste good, or because there's loads of farms that are organic, for example, but their farming practices might be very different. The soil quality might be very different, and the soil quality is going to affect the nutrition in the vegetables. So I'd definitely go by trial and error. If one for greengrocers, their food tastes better than the other greengrocers, then you can bet there might be some quality differences, and that's my kind of answer, really.
I think I have to add in here as well, like with supermarkets, remember they do bulk buy. So when you're able to bulk buy, you get a wholesale rate, and you do get a cheaper rate. So, price doesn't always equal quality. There are certain organic foods, well, organic, or you can't really get free range vegetables, can you? But you know what I mean, like the ones that are touted of better quality, yet they're out of season, so they're still very expensive. They're out of season and they taste like shit. So really, I mean, it's a bit of a grey area. It is hard to decide. I think shopping local and staying with the locals. That's not the worst decision that you can make. And I think if you do have to buy in the supermarkets, well, you buy in the supermarkets, but just always try and eat in season. So in season vegetables, and make sure that they're preferably grown in the country that you live in. Here in Australia, we get a lot of food imported from Mexico, and we've had all sorts from a lot of stuff is grown in China. So we're obviously very careful where we buy things. So eating in season is very important.
Nice. I agree. So that leaves us to wrap up the show, just short of an hour. Bonanza. For anyone coming to the Body Type Nutrition Conference on the 8th and 9th of November, I will see you there. Ticket sales for that will close very, very shortly, because we need to have final numbers for food on the day and the prizes and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to the Strength Matters Summit, I will see you there. If you're living in Ireland, I'm coming over for seminars on the 30th of November. Then otherwise, that's all from me. Transdermaltechnology.co if you're living in Australia. If you love the Athletic Fox, then go to athleticfox.com or find her on the interweb at Twitter and at Facebook, and follow what she does, because she's amazing.
Thanks, Benny. I think you're amazing too.
So, until next time, I have Nate Mayaki on the next show, a bit of a nutritional legend in America. Then after that, me and Rachel will be back with you. So that's goodbye for me.
Goodbye for me, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See you later.
Ciao.
Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 107. We've had a whole string of amazing guests recently, and we haven't really been that transatlantic, apart from Rachel. She's on every other week. We know who she is. Today, we've got another transatlantic show.